Oh, we do love when a video recording fails 2 times in a row, don't we? Welcome back to another video, guys. Today, the whole point of this video, really, was to kind of answer the question on, are the stock Supercross tracks a good stepping stone before you hop over into the real hard stuff like the aerial tracks? And my game has crashed twice in online on Nevada. So it's a bit of a shame because I never ever ever see any full Supercross lobbies online outside of organised events. And yeah, for the first time ever, there was a server of about 20 people on this exact track here, which is Nevada 2013, I believe. There's two layouts, a 13 and an 18. And all I wanted to do was race around online a little bit, see how it goes with a full gate, because I don't think I've ever raced on this track with a bunch of people before, and just see if there's any kind of comparison between this and the aerial tracks, maybe if you should waste your time on this at all, or what the case may be. So, as I was saying before my game crashed earlier in the video, is I think on this game, I quite often say that you get out what you put in, and what I mean by that is you kind of you excel on what you practice at. So, for example, if I sit there on stock tracks like Forest or Club, or even some of the easier, downloadable tracks like Walnut or Paletta or Farm, there's a certain limit that you're going to get to in the game when you can't progress any further. And I am a firm believer of chucking yourself into the deep end is the way to go. I mean, when I first started playing MX Simulator and MX Bikes, the first thing I done was go and find like one of the hardest enduro tracks and try and master the game's slow speed physics at a certain point. And I feel like everybody should try and struggle a little bit at least once, just to see how they do and see what they can learn from it. Now, I think these tracks are fully acceptable. I think they are fairly good tracks to learn Supercross on as a whole. Maybe learn your rhythms, learn your jump timings a little bit. The tracks aren't difficult as such. There's some things that will catch you out, which I'll show you in a second actually, and most of it is just the way the track's built with jump transitions. Like, they're very, very sharp faces of jumps, whereas the aerial tracks tend to be spaced out a little bit more. So whilst the rhythm sections and jumps may end up being bigger, they tend to be a bit safer. So for example, in this rhythm section here, let me spin around and show you exactly what I mean, because I just completely failed on the one jump that I wanted to show off. So what you're meant to do in this is you're meant to triple in, and then this jump right here to my left is meant to be the next tape-off, but you can see how short the jump face is and the transition of it. So oh, I didn't mean to do that at all. So it naturally tries to kick you over the handlebars, which is really, really hard to try and take the sting out of the jump, and I think I've only ever actually hit that section clean once, like the really fast way. Whereas on aerial tracks, the run-up and jump itself tends to be a little bit smoother. And let's see if I can get it this time. Oh, up and over. No, it didn't get it clean at all. It really robs your speed because the suspension compresses so hard. So in terms of should you ride these tracks to kind of build yourself up in terms of Supercross, honestly, I would just say you're better off doing one of the easier aerial rounds. And even I would go as far to say is, so I know a big issue is to do with paid content and things like that as well, and the 2023 season has been paid for every round. Some of the free tracks, so like the pre-season track was completely free, which uses a lot of the same scaling, so that could be a good one to test yourself on or just practice on. I wouldn't even advise going back and doing like the 2021 or 2022 tracks, because again, the scaling has changed since then. It's completely different. If you used to load up a 2021 track now, especially on a 450, you would feel like you are tiptoeing around the track. It feels so much smaller in terms of scale, like a lot more twisty and tight, and I don't actually understand how we rode them tracks as comfortably as we did. And I was on a 250 back then, so it might have been a bit of a different story for me. But I think the same ruling still applies. So, in a very long roundabout way of saying it, I think you really should, if you want to get into the Supercross side of things and do those aerial tracks, you need to force yourself to have a bad time, in a way. And I know nobody wants to have a bad time playing video games, to be honest. Everyone wants to have it nice and easy, as much fun as possible. But there's no improvement without failure. You kind of learn from your mistakes. And I think that goes with anything outside of Supercross too. If you crash, rather than just saying, fuck this game, it's awful, like physics are whack here, there and everywhere, try and learn why you crashed, why the physics reacted the way they did, and then try and see if next time you hit that section of track, if you can do anything different to stop that from happening. Because realism aside, I know the game can be especially wonky with its low speed physics and uphill stuff. There are ways of combating it. And a lot of the time, it does come down to people trying to go too fast. I myself am very guilty of this. I know in the heat of the moment in like races, if you're having a really intense battle, you might try and push a bit too fast, and the front end knifes on you in the corner, and then you swap side to side, and eventually you just end up face down in the dirt, which you can look at it as, okay, my front end shouldn't really have tucked there, it's a little bit wonky. At the same time, you could have gone, well, maybe if I just went a little bit slower there, the front end wouldn't have been under so much pressure, and then I wouldn't have crashed, and I wouldn't be 5 seconds down like I am now after waiting to respawn for a crash. There's always two ways of looking at things. When I'm solo in testing, I tend to look at things a lot more openly, and a lot of the time, when I crash, I will go back into replay and slow it right down and try and pinpoint that exact moment where it went wrong and the bike kicked out. I know one example that I was having is on Unadilla. I don't know the exact name of the jump, which is going to annoy me. Basically, the opposite side of the track is Screw You. You've got a big old tabletop into a tight 180 left-hander, and that tight 180 coming out of it, for some reason, over and over again, I'd get halfway through it, and then my front end suddenly just go on me. And I didn't feel like the bike had transitioned in weight at all. I didn't feel like I changed my input on the stick at all in terms of steering. So when I went and slowed down and watched it, what actually happened is halfway around the corner, the inside of the rut, the terrain changes. So even though my lean angle was the same and the rut was the same, the terrain around the rut changed, which caused my foot peg to kind of dig into the ground, which then made my front end knife. So it wasn't even necessarily a front end issue. It was me leaning over too far, which caused the peg to dig in, which caused the front end to tuck. And it took me a couple of times to try and work out where that sweet spot was. I even went up a little bit higher in the rut than I had been to give myself that little bit of extra room on my left-hand side so my peg didn't drag. And it ended up being absolutely fine after that. So a lot of things are from trial and error. Whilst I quite enjoy... I much more enjoy playing this game online than I do in solo. It's just a lot more fun having people around you when they're nice, respectable riders. That is, granted, when they're going like all over the shop and you spend more time trying to dodge people than riding the track itself, it can be a little bit frustrating. But I will say single player is good for that, is hopping into replay, learning what you're doing right and what you're not doing right. I've realised looking up at the timing and scoring that every time I've jumped around that wall in that corner, my lap hasn't counted from getting cuts, so feel free to call me a scumbag, you're more than welcome to. I was just trying to mess around with an interesting looking line that is definitely doable. You just got to hit it at the right angle so you don't jump over the bales at all. And so this one is Nevada 2013. I want to try Nevada 2018 as well before I end this video, because they're obviously two different layouts. One could be a bit more viable than the other. I think, if memory serves me right, I prefer the other layout. I think the whoops... Oh, get over that. Oh, no, survive. There we go. The whoops are a little bit better. Some of the rhythms feel a little bit nicer as well. And there's even some more like technical downside into slamming on the brakes tight inside lines as well. So let's give that a go. Right, let's move over to the 2018 version then. I do think this layout is more difficult of the two. So maybe if you wanted... I know that I said already that you should be playing the aerial tracks to get better at them. Maybe as a very, very beginner stepping stone, maybe go from 13 first over to 18. And I can't even think off the top of my head of like any super straightforward like mod tracks to download that would also carry over skill-wise into the aerial tracks, because every single track made by a different creator is going to ride differently, just in terms of scale. It always will do. I do enjoy this track because... So you have to get a good run through them whoops to be able to quad all the way into the corner. Now you've got a big rhythm section here. I can't remember what you have to do in here. Is it quad in, and then I think you step on to this table here, and then you step out. So there's lots of progression in this rhythm section. You can kind of work double your way through, then start tripling, and then there's some other bits. This table is very difficult actually to try and get the bike orientation right. I feel like sometimes the bike goes quite front wheel high, which is a little bit weird. You can double into here, double again, jump as far as you want into the sand, and can I step over this wall? Oh, that's quick if you can step over the wall at the end there, rather than clipping it and jumping to the moon. You practice your little low-speed scrubs over this wall here, which I guess could be a good beginner move to the actual walls that we have in aerial. Although you can't really scrub the wall jumps in aerial at all. They're so steep that the game physics Don't really like it. A lot of time you have to end up slamming on the brakes and leaning right forwards to put weight on the front wheel, so the front wheel doesn't like tweak at all. Try and like actually force it into a straight line yourself. We step over this, step over that, go on, off, and you know, I'll give this one the benefit of the doubt. This one might be worth practicing on a little bit to get your rhythms down. I don't think 450s are needed at all. It's definitely overkill for these tracks. I don't know how old these tracks are. I know they obviously come with the game, but the game's had certain updates at certain points. I don't know if this was like from day one that it existed or what, but I can't imagine these were ever built with the 450s in mind, unless maybe just the skill level of the player base back then was a lot lower than it is now. So I mean, that obviously makes sense. With more people coming to the game, the chance of people being faster showing up is a lot more likely. Let's come around here to the right. I don't think I've ever managed to quad smoothly over that. I always go on off. It just feels like the beginning of it doesn't have much of a lip. Oh my Christ! I need to try and hit this properly, or it's gonna haunt me for the rest of the day. Let me come around here. I think I'm just going too far out wide, so I need to kind of cut down more to not hit the side of that one. Jump over. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out my arse. Maybe that isn't that doable. Oh well. I mean, ignore me. I don't know anything. I mean, I'm washed up. You shouldn't listen to Supercross advice from me anyway. I won like 7 or something races in a row last year, and then this year I've won 1 in total with the help of a game bug that made the leader crash. So take that what you wish. I do class myself as best of the rest right now. I'm always like that P3 guy, straight in behind Hurls and Skills. But I'm quite happy with where I finish based on the amount of effort put in. I'll very rarely, unless I'm doing maybe like an road video or something along those lines, I'll very rarely touch on the Supercross tracks from one week to another. Usually I'll just wait until Fridays for the races and then do it then. Let's experiment with the outside here then. It doesn't look like there's much of a berm to hold you, so I'm guessing you go step on, step off, step on, step off. Right, I want to try and turn around and hit that. These tough blocks, by the way, absolute menaces. Like, the collisions on them are so like hard. They're super heavy collisions, so if you do get into them, majority of the time you're gonna find yourself going over the bars. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Right, so step on, step off. Oh, that next table is a long way away. Oh yeah, that room section's got me a little confuzzled, a little confused. I'm not sure what the fastest way through there is. So, I mean, there you go. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Here I am saying that these tracks are no comparison to Aerial. Well, they are giving me a bit of a challenge in some aspects. So, I suppose, in conclusion to all of this waffling for the last 10 plus minutes, is if you are a super beginner to this game, and you want to try Supercross in some capacity, and you're bored of your forests and your clubs, give Nevada 2013 a go. Stock track, you haven't got to go download anything. If you are then progressing a little bit, give this one a go, which is Nevada 2018. And then if the time comes where you really want to push yourself and you want to just up your Supercross levels, maybe you're practicing to qualify for Aerial, oh, there we go, that's a good rhythm. Love that, that's what I've been trying to do all day, is download either the pre-season track off MXB Shop because it's completely free, or if you do have money to spare, then just go and download some tracks. Load up the MyMXB website and you can load up previous races qualifying times, kind of see what you need to aim for, see what that cut-off point is. And there's also an amateur series as well that FAR do, FAR, which is really cool. I've not actually seen any of it yet, but it's like it's blacklists anyone that's ever qualified for I think it's a main event, or even qualified for the night show, so even going in through to the heat races. So that is a pure amateur championship, not really any sandbagging going on in there. And just see where you stack up. You know, you're never going to know until you try. And don't be afraid to venture out of your comfort zone a little bit. If you keep crashing over and over in a section, go into replay mode, slow it down, see where it went wrong, and try and just think to yourself, what could I have done differently to not crash? Live. There we go. I was about to say about not crashing when I was just crashing myself. And yeah, that'll kind of do it from me. I'm not sure where else to go with this. I am a little bit sad that I had to do all this in testing and none of it was online, but as I say, I've been having some funky game issues, which is a bit scary because in half an hour after I stop recording this video, I'm going to be doing my 50k live stream, which is going to be 5 hours long. So if my game keeps crashing during that, I'm going to be a little bit worried because it's just going to be for like 5 hours of public lobbies. So wish me luck. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'd greatly appreciate it. Have a lovely rest of the day, wherever you're up to. and I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Peace.